This is their second offer for Treasury. They came in April at $4.70. Now they're offering $5.20. It's a 10.6% increase. It's also 40% above where Treasury shares were trading before the initial move in April. So it's quite a strong uplift.
Now there has been some speculation that this bid might rustle up anybody else who was thinking of getting involved with a TWE takeover. Are there any other likely parties who might get involved at this point?
There's a couple of potential buyers that have been mooted in the past. Bright Foods from China is a name that comes up quite a lot. They have in previous years ruled out any bid for Treasury, but who knows what they're thinking now. They're already in the Australian sector with a number of food businesses, including Manassan Foods. There's a US private equity firm called Cerberus Capital that actually made an approach to Treasury while they were still part of Foster's back in 2011. They could come back. The main amount of interest is likely to come from the Chinese, though. They have an insatiable thirst for Australian wines, particularly Penfolds, which is the jewel in the crown for Treasury, and they're likely to be able to pay a little bit more than anybody else.
So, since the original KKR bid, Treasury's shares actually have appreciated quite a bit. Is there any chance of them trading themselves out of trouble here?
The upward move in the share price is pretty well based on the speculation of an increased takeover. It hasn't really been about how well they're doing, because they're not doing very well at all. They had another write-down in June of about $260 million. That brings their write-downs over the past 10 years to more than $3.3 billion. So Treasury are having a tough time of it. The biggest problem, of course, is their US business, which they bought back in the early noughties, and it's just entirely failed to make a go for them.
So with all that considered, and the fact that TWE aren't actually performing that well, what's driving the interest in them?
Penfolds, in a word. It makes up more than half of their profit. It's the closest thing Australia has to a true luxury brand. There's no Louis Vuitton, there's no BMW in Australia, but we do have Penfolds Grange. It's the only Australian brand you're likely to see on the table at a Hollywood A-list party. They might be wearing R.M. Williams, but that's a fair way down. So Penfolds is enormously profitable. It rivals the French first growths, and yet, unlike them, it's not tied to any particular vineyard. They buy their fruit from all over the place. They cherry pick the eyes out of the vintage. They get the best fruit they can, and they make these fantastic wines. So the fact that it's not tied to a particular vineyard means you can actually increase the scale. Which you can't do with a Chateau Latour. Yet they have a wine that sells for almost as much. So the potential for increased profit is enormous.
And what's likely to happen to TWE if they are taken over by a private equity group like KKR?
First thing is they would sell the US business, which is predominantly Beringer. It's nowhere near the quality of the Australian assets, so that would go fairly quickly. Second thing is that Penfolds will probably be split off from the other Australian brands. Those are Wolf Blass, Lindemans, Rosemount, Wynns. There's a whole handful of them. And they'd likely get rid of a whole bunch of the smaller brands. They would just disappear. They might hive them off. They might warehouse them. But it would be, you could make 3 businesses out of this one company quite easily.
And just finally, as a prediction, do you think Australia is about to lose control of what you think is its only real luxury brand?
It's a shame, but yes, we might not be able to afford it very much longer. But if it's bought by private equity, they don't buy these things to hold on to them forever. They will sell them, so it wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility that an Australian buyer could buy Penfolds back once the new owners are ready to sell. It could end up in Australian hands quite quickly.
Fantastic. Blair Speedy, thanks very much.
Thank you.